the Trotec T510. Let's talk about the operation of this actual unit. The on button is on the right hand side. We press that on button. It's doing a battery check right now. Okay, so we're on. Now let's go through and have a look at the menu. So right now we can hold our menu button and we've got our light here. So what we can change is the brightness down to 20, which is duller, or we can go back up to 100. So down arrow and up arrow. And you always hold the tick button for it to do a yes or no. So we go back to the menu. We go down here to this is sends means it's either building materials or timber. So we can change building materials. We can go the down arrow and now we change it to building materials. Now what you'll find is once we change it to building materials, I'll go back in the menu and now we've looked at there's some menu items missing there. Let's go back in there again and we will change it to hold the tick button. Okay, up arrow, change it to timber, hold the tick button. There we go. Let's go back into the menu, hold the menu button. Down arrow, down arrow. Now we've got materials. Press the tick. Now what density of timber is this? Set between 1 and 35. So let's go and set it to up arrow, cross arrow, up arrow. We're going to set it to 12. Now 12 is a medium density timber. This is set on Douglas fir. And then we can do a plus or minus table which we will supply for you to be able to plus and minus off the Australian and New Zealand timbers. So you could say, okay, it's a blackbutt, I need to add 1. Or it's a radiata pine, I need a -3. You'll be able to know that by looking at the table. It's a lot easier than going in and individually setting every timber. Now, let's go back into the menu. You have to touch the screen to ignite it, and then you've got to go into the menu. Now, what we can do is go into the temperature setting. Now, what we can do, we can actually set our temperature of our timber. So we're going to leave it on 22. Okay. Now, up the top, we've got ACT, which is actual. We've got our average. We've got our minimum. We've got our maximum. And then we've got our hold button to hold for taking readings. Okay. For photographs. Also, if we go back, we can do the down arrow, which changes from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Let's go back to Celsius. Now, let's tell you how to connect something to the meter, like pins. We pull our little cap off. Now, you'll see that there's 2 little holes in these. It gets supplied with these little stainless pins that come with it. Now, I don't like to use those. I like to use the handheld pin probe and the hammer probe. So let's connect those up. So we unscrew these, just like so. Unscrew again, just like so. And screw on our little connectors to connect our cable up. Screw it nice and tight to connect our cable up. Nice and tight. Now our cable goes straight in here. Our cable goes straight in here. Now, let's look at a piece of timber. Okay. Now, what it's connected to is our slide hammer probe. Okay. So we're just going to do this for demonstration. And what we're going to do, without trying to make too much of a racket, we're just going to hammer probe into the timber. and we'll get our actual reading, which is 11.3 at 22 degrees. 10.8. It's around the 10. Oh, just dropping a little bit. Let's let it equalise. It's around the 10.3 mark. 10.6. Okay. Now, what we can do is we can go in here and we can go over to our temperature, and let's see if we change our temperature. Let's say we're doing a bit of heat drying. We can go across button here, back up button, and we can go to 42 degrees. Let's say we heated it up to 42 degrees. Now I haven't moved my hammer probe, but look at the reading has drastically dropped. At least 3.5 to 4%. Now the reason is because I've changed the temperature of the timber. So a lot of the pin meters out there do not have the temperature settings of the timber. So be careful when you are raising or you're at a colder climate and you're raising or decreasing the temperature, whether it's cold or whether it's hot, you have to calculate the temperatures of the timber. Both framework in properties, sometimes in winter you could be checking framework in properties, they could be 12 to 15 degrees. Sometimes you check them in Queensland in summer and they could be 30 degrees. So make sure you preset your temperatures of your timber. Going back in, hold the menu button. We go down. We go down. We go down. Tick. We're going to change it. We're going to go across. We're going to go down. We're going to go down. Press the tick. Back onto the 22 degrees. Let's go back into the menu. I'll put this hammer probe down. Okay. Back into the menu. Hold the menu button. We go down, 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 down. Tick. What we can do with the alarm is we can turn the alarm on, and we can also go across our row here to the right, and we can set the alarm. Let's say we don't want our timber going over 12%. So we can go up to 1, over to up to 1, 2. So we don't want our timber to go over 12%. Tick. Now it's set to 12%. So if I get a reading of over 12%, my alarm's going to go off, just like so. Okay? So that's going to be my preset to say, hey, I've set my timber to 12%, and these are my problem areas because I have to dry my timber down to 12%. So we can go back into the menu. We can go down. We can go into the alarm. We can turn it off. And we'll go back in. We'll set him back to 0. Now, there's also a calibration section. You can get a calibration block and you can go in to make sure it's right. You can go back down to your down arrow, go over to your calibration, which is up. Press the tick button and you can go turn it on, and then you can go across arrow and you can actually set your calibration. What I need to add or minus to make sure your meter is calibrated. You can buy a calibration block and actually set your calibration yourself. So it's very, very good in that aspect. Okay, so that's a little bit about how to use the actual screen and how to use the meter. Stay tuned for more videos on how to use the meter with all the connections. Thanks for watching.